essentially what a bowler is required to do is take wickets, create pressure, stay fit. The taking wickets thing kind of takes care of itself um, if you can apply pressure. And the interesting thing is, we'll come to the keeping fit bit in a minute. Back to my notes. The interesting thing is that um, I don't think there's a lot of patience in the world these days. I don't know if any of you were on my live call last night. It was an analysis of unusual action. But I mentioned on that, and I think the day before, I don't think there's a lot of patience. And so therefore, we almost jump from where we are to taking wickets. And I still think that there's a bit of a process to go through. there's a process to go through to win the next ball, and that's it. I think that, or I feel, that there's the landscape of the game is changing massively. There is so much money involved now, and with technology, we all see like the glitzy glamour stuff of the IPL and the 100, and the amounts of money that people are now earning. Even at the lower levels, I think that they want that quickly, and we still make that mistake of thinking that there is a shortcut, and there never is. There never is. What we all see is sexy stuff on TV and picking up the paychecks and, driving around in nice cars, and we see all of that. And of course that's attractive, but what we don't see is the work that's being put into that in the years before. Going out, running when it's lashing down, freezing cold, raining, doing all the gym work, doing all the drill work, those training sessions where you ramp it up massively and it's tough and it's challenging, and you fail, you get out, or you bowl bad balls, or we don't see any of that. And I still think that this skill of patience is so underrated, and I actually think that patience moving forwards could be an absolute superpower. Taking wickets, creating pressure, staying fit. Those are the three things that I think that I believe that bowlers are. That's what's required of them. So the staying fit thing. So Tratty out in Australia, he's working with some high quality players, state cricketers, highly regarded, and he just feels that there are injuries in Australia. Of course there is, like there is all over the world. But there's almost like there's conversation that needs to be had right when players are learning how to bowl, laying those foundations. And those that have been on my calls, the Tuesday night calls, and the 4-week or the 4 calls I talked through the 8-year process. I'm putting together a bit of a document here, the anatomy of a future pace bowler. And it is all about laying those foundations. So how do you stay fit? Well, if somebody can move well, run well, has balance, coordinated, all this kind of stuff, it is easier, but we don't like it easy all the time, do we? We like to solve problems. So what do you do? Well, I think that, and Tratty, just reading a few there, how do you make bowlers robust? You probably don't make bowlers robust by protecting them too much. There's a real conversation to be had around workloads. Workloads, I think, are really, really useful if you've got an uncoordinated, going through a growth spurt bowler that just need a little bit of protection. And then at the same time, whilst they might be bowling at a less intensity, they can also, when they're growing, they can also be working on their running technique, their seam position, their rhythm, where they are landing, on what part of the foot they are landing on the floor. I mean, there's lots of really, really cool things that you can have a look at embedding into a bowler if you have to reduce the intensity of their bowling. You don't make robust bowlers by doing nothing with them, by protecting them, basically. That was quite interesting. And I love just going back through these old notes. What is the sweet spot? So everybody is different. Has each bowler bowled enough, although not too much? Well, what a question that is. You have to really know the bowler to really understand what that is. I'll come on to like pathway stuff in a minute. He's obviously talking about, or we were talking about, adults. How do you find it? How do you find the sweet spot? The S&C and the bowling coach lead on this. Now, I have always enjoyed healthy relationships with S&Cs. You'd have to ask them whether they would say the same about working with me, because I think it's really important, a healthy challenge. So me challenging an S&C, well, why does his numbers say he can only bowl that amount? I need him to bowl more. How is that exercise going to help that bowler either increase pace, hold better positions, bowl longer spells? And sometimes, depending on the mood of the S&C, it's either landed quite well or it's not, sort of thing. But a healthy relationship isn't always, it is a challenging one. Healthy, I think, is challenging conversations. So how do you find a sweet spot for each bowler at that level? It's that relationship between the S&C and the bowling coach. This is what we were just talking about. And this guy works with, well, Scotty Boland, Victoria guys. What an Ashes series he's having. Bowlers are going through the motion. I've sent a newsletter. Can you just give me a thumbs up if you read the newsletter I sent out yesterday? Because there was a section in there around the bowlers that hold themselves back at training are actually putting themselves at risk. Bowlers that don't run in quite as hard at training put themselves at risk, because if you're running in slower, how you get into the crease is different. So therefore, it's a slightly different action. If you're using a slightly different action on an ongoing basis at training, you never tap into that high intensity that you would do in matches. And I have worked with and am aware of bowlers that it's frustrating. They get injured in matches, but they're doing all the training, they're getting the overs in, but they never actually put their body and their minds into that high intensity of bowling at training. And so therefore, when they do it in matches, that's the only time they do it, and they get injured. It's interesting, isn't it? Tyrone, thank you. Hope you enjoyed it. What was the bit that you got? What was the thing within that resonated the most? There was Jonty Rhodes, Johnny Wilkinson. There was some real kind of philosophical kind of things in there, and which I brought back round into cricket. So he, again, this is at the highest end, working with Australian cricketers and state cricketers, professionals. He talked about, and it was really interesting conversation, preparing them for the worst case scenario. And what he meant by that was the worst case scenario in a 4-day game. And I realised that most of us are not now working with players that are playing 4-day matches. But the concept is a good one, and we can adapt it to who we are working with. Over a 4-day game, what's the worst case scenario where you're in the field for 2.5 days? So what is the distance? What is the maximum distance that's going to be covered when you're on your feet for 6-7 sessions? Distance covered, run-up speeds, 24 overs in days, so maybe close to 35, 40 overs. So worst case scenario, and then you work it back, you reverse engineer it in terms of their training. And so in the off season, that is how Tratty works with his players on an individual basis, because the fastest bowlers aren't going to bowl 40 overs. They might do 40 overs across 2 days, but they might bowl 30. But you might have another kind of more medium paced, longer spell kind of bowler that would bowl 40 overs, 45 overs across, if they're in the field for 7 days. So that's how he trains. Um, have we prepared this guy in order for him or her for the worst case day in the field? And it's interesting. I was just thinking about training for like marathons. You never actually hit a marathon, do you? In your training, you get close to it, but then you rely on your adrenaline to squeeze out the last 2 or 3 miles. I've never run a marathon, by the way. So that's an interesting kind of twist. Running a marathon, you don't train like this. However, what does that look like for us? Can you give me some sort of, Tyrone? Give me um okay, interesting interface and transfer of some other sports. Yeah, I'm not surprised. So we're talking about the highest end, and I always really like, what other sports are out there that I can make the link between that sport and cricket. I've always been interested in the long jump because of the run up aspects. I spent a bit of time years ago now with a long jump coach, both on the phone and in person, a long jump coach at the University of Gloucester in Gloucestershire, because I wanted my bowlers to really have an awareness of how they can tap into rhythm. It's one of those elusive things. And I always felt that how a bowler is in their run at, what they feel, are they efficient, their running technique, has a massive effect on the performance, like through the crease and, up into everything they do from the jump, and then they land back foot, front foot, first drive follow through, but from the jump into release. So everything they do there is a consequence of what they did in their run up. So I was fascinated with how the long jump coach was working with his athletes to find the optimum length run up for what they had to do. The optimum length, the optimum speed, and then how he was training them. So once they put their foot on the brake, and there is a little bit of slowing down, but not a lot, for the jump, what cues he was then using to get the right angle, trajectory, the right jump. It was bloody fascinating. Remember John Lewis, who is now director of cricket at Gloucestershire, played for England, played a long, successful career with Gloucestershire, and then Surrey, worked with him at Surrey as well. And then I think he ended up at Sussex and became England bowling coach. He worked with a high jump coach early in his career. He had some stress fractures, changed the way he approached and changed his action, and all of a sudden became a very, very skillful bowler. He ended up working with a high jump coach that in his run up, he used to, if he was feeling a little bit sluggish, heavy legs, heavy grounds, or whatever, as soon as he hit his mark, he used to say in his mind, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, hold. And then that hold was his cue to get the right height jump. But the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, that was there to help him get the right speed, the right feeling, the right rhythm. And I have to say that having worked with him for a few years, he had one of the most rhythmical, easy looking run ups I've seen in a bowler. Not as quick as Michael Holden, because that was very easy on the eye as well, wasn't it? But John Lewis, having worked with a high jump coach, and I personally didn't make the connection with a high jump coach, but it was what he could take from a high jump coach in terms of how they get their athletes, their high jumpers, moving efficiently with the right rhythm. And obviously high jump coaches, high jumpers, they have that angle on the run up as well. Anyway, how does all of that how can we make that connection with youth? I think that I recall when I was doing some work with Kent Pathway, and we worked out that once winter training had got up and running, the time that we were working with that age group compared with the total time in the week, we were working with them for 1% of the time that they were awake, they were at school, doing whatever else. We had them for 1% of the total time that was available to them to work with them on their cricket. That is the reason why. So the question then is, how can we increase the 1% into the biggest number possible without us being there? And so the conversation really was about they have to play multi-sports because, yes, we're only working on their cricket skills with us for 1% of the time. They could also be having club training, school training. So we have to find out individually the other work that they are doing. So that 1% could turn into 3% by us then communicating with school coach, club coach. For those who are not, and that once per week cricket session was the only session they had, in terms of fitness, coming back to my conversation with Tratty, the only way we could increase that 1% was getting them to play multi-sport. So in terms of their fitness, their coordination, their change of direction, their reading the game. And I'm a massive fan of young players playing multi-sports because of game awareness. Reading the game. Do they find space? Do they follow the ball? Where do I need to be for my teammate? Tactics, all that kind of stuff. The more they are exposed to that way of thinking and in those environments, the more then you can help them make the connection to the scenarios in cricket. So multi-sports, I'm a massive, massive fan of for all sorts of reasons, physically, mentally, tactically, lifestyle-wise and everything. So going back to what does all this mean to young cricketers? That's one. How do we increase that 1% to as big a number as possible? Multi-sports. Give them a load of drills that they can do at home. Seam position drills. If you haven't got yo-yos for your sons, daughters, or encouraging any bowler that you are working with to actually have a yo-yo, that is the action that we want through release. That is the action for yo-yos. Get them a yo-yo. Encourage them to put a yo-yo on their Christmas list. How do we increase that 1%? Well, get them to do some sort of mobility. It all goes into the cricket pot, okay? Get them to understand the importance of stretching, mobility, nutrition, speak with their parents. All of these things are how we can increase that total time. We might be with them for 1% of the time, but actually by educating them, we can increase that fairly easily, as long as they get buy-in, of course. So preparing them for the worst case. Just lastly, before I just kind of open it up, I'm not sure how long I've been going on for here. Adam, how you doing? So what does all this look like for youth cricketers? It's worth spending a little bit of time and just writing in a diary. Okay, if it's T20 cricket, for instance, what's the total amount of time that my players are going to be on their feet when they're in the field? Let's say an hour and 15. Let's keep it nice and simple. An hour and 15. Bowlers bowlers are bowling 4 overs. So we know that there's a little bit of increased pace there in terms of their running. We know we can work out quite easily the distance of those 4 overs, their run-ups, because we're helping them, and we can work that out. So they're going to be increasing their run-up speed over this distance times 24 balls. you can kind of work out approximately, without having GPSs and all that kind of stuff, you can kind of work out the distance that they'll be covering in the field, especially if they're fielding on the boundary. And then what you can do is you can add in there. So batters are the same, obviously without the run-up bit, but you're asking a batter to score, let's say 35, 40, 50 runs. You can work out the distance of them running between the wickets, obviously sprinting. So it is possible to get an approximate kind of distance. So going back to this, prepare them for the worst case scenario. This is what Tratty was talking about with the Victorian squad. Tratty is the S&C coach for those that have just joined. You can get an approximate kind of worst case scenario situation, and that's how you can train them. Let's say a club coach, you've got them for training for an hour and a half once a week. Well, actually, if you've got these kind of rough worst case scenarios in the field, in the dirt, taking catches, throwing amounts, bowling amounts, you could actually be very specific in that hour and a half training session and link in the demands of their matches. Okay. Yeah, condition bowlers, just last one. Condition bowlers by getting them to do all the running without the bowling. So the game is running. That's another reason why I'm a massive fan of multi-sport cricketers. On their feet, running. Yeah, this time of year, wow. Yeah, there's no excuse. Yeah, if they're not playing multi-sports, they've got to run. They've got to run. Right, Mick, going back to I thought for years that social media videos have to have a watermark or something similar explaining to view how many hours it took to perfect the skill. Yeah, or attributes. Social media is creating a generation. Yeah. And it's a shame. It's a shame that people just think there are shortcuts because there are no shortcuts. I once spent a car journey with Kumar Sangakkara, and he was talking me through. I was just asking him, talking about your childhood and stuff, because Sangakkara, absolute genius on the field. That's what we see, but it actually started all the way back when he was a child. So he talked to me about discipline, and he talked to me about how so he's very well educated, and how his parents used to give him a book on a Sunday to read before Thursday, and then on the Thursday there would be like, not an exam, but an informal kind of discussion around what he took from the book. What were the lessons he learned? What were the things that he felt that he could implement himself? What resonated? What didn't he agree with? Some real insights. And so what it meant was that when Kumar was young, he was reading a book every week. But what it taught him, he was saying, was reading English, the discipline of starting a book on a Sunday and finding that time to complete it before the Thursday, the discipline of recalling the stuff that he learned, and you can tell that now in his commentary, and it was just fascinating to hear. So but social media and everything, they wouldn't know that, and in every single case, an example of somebody who is a high performer, there is examples like that all the way through, but people don't see that. YouTube and all these other social media platforms. I believe I agree with you, Mick. I'm on a bit of a mission now because I believe I have the knowledge to help as many people that really want to improve and understand that there are no shortcuts. And maybe that's my that's on me to help people understand that there are no shortcuts. But I'm on a mission through social media, actually using it in a positive way to help as many people as possible. And even stuff like, I want a brace front leg. Well, give me 6 months. I might be able to help you to get it. I want to swing the ball in. I fall away. I fall away, and I swing the ball in, but I want to swing the ball away. Okay, well, give me 3 or 4 months. We want about 3 or 4 months. Um, there is no patience. Okay, what else have we got? What will I do to transfer talent into hard work? They have a very casual approach. You have to find the thing that gets them out of bed and gets them along to your sessions, Cheyenne. Um, uh, it's difficult. I'm one of those living examples of I had high talent without the work ethic, and my opportunity was taken away from me after 2 years. And I realized it afterwards, but then used that as motivation to help my coaching career. I think that, yeah, make it fun and engaging. I think it's really important to high challenge, high support. I put something out recently, I think it was on the app here, about the importance of a high challenge and high support and what that looks like. I think that it's a high challenge, high support with highly talented players. I think you need to expose them to failure in a safe environment. It's because highly talented players aren't used to losing. But I think that every now and then you can set up a training session or a match against older players where it becomes really difficult. And when it's difficult, you will see players that have a bit of fire in their eyes to find a way to overcome that challenge. You will also see players that shy away and they don't like it because it's suddenly become difficult. But the safe bit about what you've done there is like almost like intentionally setting up a training session where we will fail is then what you do afterwards. It's the process of working out, right, what just happened? Get yourself into small groups of 3 or even 2. I want you to discuss what just happened. I want you to talk about the team. I want you to talk about the game. I want you to talk about you. What happened? Where did we lose? What phases do we lose and why? Why did we lose? Yeah. What could you have done differently? And what could your teammates have done differently? And all of a sudden you've got this communication going. Now, some players won't like it because 1, they won't like losing, and 2, they won't like talking about themselves or their teammates. Especially if they all get on as a group, they're all very friendly because it's even more challenging for them to pull each other up. But what you've done then, Cheyenne, is you've given them the experience of the game. The game, you don't win all the time. You don't perform and get in the papers all the time. The game can be brutal, but exposing them to failure, but in a safe way. And then what you do afterwards, it's okay. It's okay to lose. It's okay to get out first ball. It's okay to make poor decisions because you can do something about that. But as soon as you then extract from them as much kind of honesty as possible, as a coach, you can work with that then. And that is gold. Okay, anything else? I need to go. I've got in here turmeric, lemon, green tea, creatine, bicarbonate of soda. Looks like pond water. Pleasure. I'm very fortunate in my wife is a bit of a health addict. It's not helped me over the last 3 months with this cough, although I've not really coughed on this on this call, which is good. Maybe this pond water is helping. Okay, just quickly then. What have we got? What have you got ahead of you? I'll go first. What have you got ahead of you today, tomorrow? Today, Seb and Raf are in there in their football gears. I've got little kickers with them both. That's good fun. Seb, our 6-year-old, he is competitive. It's fascinating watching him. He's a bit of a runner, fast for his age, competitive. As soon as you set up a game, he loves a game. All of a sudden, he gets this face on him. He scored not last week, but the week before. He scored 5 goals, and every single goal that he scored, he went up to one of his teammates and yeah, all this. And I'm like, there's a part of me. Don't get me wrong. There's a part of me that I'm thinking, yeah, go on, boy. But there's another part of me. I did have to have a conversation. No, Seb, well done, well done. But there's a thing called being a good sportsman that we need to have a chat about. Nice fast bowling session with Rushy. That's up north, is it? I imagine that Rushy's going up north every weekend. So where is that, Tyrone? Whilst I finish my pond water, get Rushy. Well, I sense that you know him. Just get him talking about the game. You know, talk about genius. The simplicity is genius. Such a skillful bloke. Such a skillful bowler that kept things simple, used angles, used his grip, read the game. Yes, bowled a bouncer, but most of his career he just lived at the top of off stump. Yeah. Last pre-Christmas session on Sunday with my pathway group. Brilliant. Then decision time. So that's me immediately. We got a house viewing actually at 2 p.m. So I've got to take the boys out of this house because they literally just trash the place. Got to take them out. Emily's keeping on top of what the house looks like. House viewing, and then I'm making my way down to London for my session at Epsom tomorrow. My last block of one-to-ones at Epsom College, which I've loved, by the way. Right. Portland and that as in up north. Yeah, John, I thought you might resonate. Okay, I've got to go. Hope you found that interesting. If you don't already keep notes, you might want to think about it. Just highlighted. Nobody scores quicker than the batter that's in. Get off strike and get them on strike. This is from T20. Have a great weekend. Mick, you too. I could go on. Have a great weekend. Thanks for joining me as always. Appreciate your support. Catch you later.